her career.
And our next guest is someone I used to, many years ago, I won't say exactly how many years ago, used to cover Congress with. When anyone had a question about the contours and the nitty-gritty of Illinois politics, we turned to Lynn Sweet.
When I finished college, I had not thought 1 minute about what I would do to earn a living. I figured out pretty soon I wanted or needed to do something in life, and I thought being a reporter would be cool. But I had a friend named Lenny who I talked to about this, and he suggested I go to Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. And he made 3 prophecies that all turned out to be true. He said, you'll get in, you'll get financial aid, and you'll get a job.
I've known Lynn since we were classmates at Medill. When I asked her sources, competitors, and colleagues to describe Lynn, they said competitive, tenacious, adamant, dogged, direct, decisive, a reporter's reporter.
Out of Medill, Lynn Sweet landed at the Independent Register in Libertyville, a weekly newspaper. After that, she joined the Sun-Times as an editorial assistant on the Action Time column, eventually promoted to general assignment reporter, chasing stories all over Chicago.
My first beat at the Sun-Times was covering the Daily Center. That included covering the Cook County government and all the courts in the Daily Center.
Lynn eventually became the Sun-Times chief political writer, transferring to Washington, D.C. in 1993 to become the Sun-Times Washington bureau chief. From that perch, she covered the Illinois delegation and Illinois issues in Congress and the White House. She saw herself as a Chicagoan on assignment in D.C.
I've had a lot of highlights of my career. In 2006, I traveled to South Africa, Kenya, and Djibouti with then Senator Barack Obama. I have a vivid memory of Desmond Tutu saying that Obama looks pretty much like a presidential candidate to him.
During that 2008 never-ending primary between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, Lynn and I followed them around Iowa, New Hampshire, all over the country. All of the adventures we had on the road.
Now, ironically, I never saw that big speech in Grant Park because as we were going into the park, I tripped over a TV cable, broke my shoulder, and was rushed away in an ambulance.
Lynn is a tenacious reporter in Washington, always working to hold office holders accountable. Through JAWS, Lynn has worked tirelessly for over 3 decades to mentor young women journalists who are coming up in this profession.
Lynn Sweet and I became friends on the softball diamond. We have both been members of the press softball team of female reporters who take on female members of Congress in an annual charity softball game. And over the course of our friendship, it developed into a mentorship outside of softball because I became a regional bureau chief for Texas, and Lynn literally taught me how to do the job, and she's been an utterly indispensable mentor over the course of my career. And I think the most important thing to know about Lynn Sweet and her softball career is that her walk-up song is Sweet Home Chicago.
In February 2005, Lynn interviewed an Illinois soldier wounded in the Iraq War, who Senator Dick Durbin invited to the State of the Union address. Lynn asked a question that changed the fate of that wounded soldier.
Lynn asked me this question. She said to me, Major Duckworth, you are wounded in service of this nation, and yet outside of Walter Reed's doors, there are protesters out there with signs against the war, protesting the war that you served and sacrificed in. How do you feel about that? It's a really tough question to ask somebody just weeks after they were shot down in a combat zone. But it was my answer to her, which was that, well, this is what I fought for. This is why I sacrificed, so that people could have freedom of speech. And I'm proud that they were out there protesting the war, even though it was a war that I served in. And then about 10 months after that, it was then that Dick Durbin told me that I should run for Congress. But it was my answer to a really tough question that Lynn dared to ask someone that began the process that ended up with me here in the United States Senate, about to take on the monumental task of following in Dick Durbin's shoes as the senior senator from Illinois. And I hope that I've lived up to the tough questions you've asked, Lynn. I try to do that every single day.
Lynn is now a special correspondent for Chicago Public Media. She summed up her career recently in a video done to mark Local News Day.
I
I've reported on Chicago politics and government for decades, from the city, Springfield, and Washington. Every day, I've tried to find things that could be useful to you and hold our elected officials accountable.
Thank you, everybody, and good evening. Good evening. Well, really, it was just so nice of everyone. I am deeply grateful to the Chicago Headline Club for this lifetime achievement. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here tonight with Cheryl and Jim, whose outstanding careers are also being recognized by the club, giving them a Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you, too, to the hardworking leaders of this organization. Thank you very much to Zubair Khan and Brian Ernst who put together this incredible video. You know, there's nothing like seeing yourself age decades in 5 minutes.
Get ready, Cheryl.
All the hair I once had. I want to thank my family and friends who are here, and congratulations to all the Lissagore nominees and winners tonight. I know how important this event is to our business and community in Chicago. But here's what's important to know. At this dinner, we are among friends, not enemies, of the First Amendment. I am blessed that I became a journalist. I never doubted for 1 minute that this was what I was supposed to do. And this November, I will be marking my 50th year at the Sun-Times. You know the punchline on that? I started when I was 5, right? But for me, it hasn't been just a career, it's been a calling. And it's a decades-long journey that has taken me from typewriters to TikTok. Now, I was one of the first in the nation to evaluate political ads for accuracy. I was an early political blogger, early on Twitter. I did a YouTube show, and now I'm experimenting with vertical videos. You know, I stepped into my current role as a special correspondent for Chicago Public Media last year because I thought every 49 years I should try something new. So I did. You know, the Sun-Times has given me amazing, extraordinary opportunities. Besides that Africa trip and safari you saw in the video, some other just highlights of the highlights. The whole rise of Obama, to be able to cover that from day one. History making and being able to cover that. 17 political conventions, countless campaigns, reporting from Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. 3 presidential impeachments. But want to know what I'm most proud of? When I was a Cook County reporter, I am most proud of the stories I did explaining the Cook County property tax system.
50 part 2.
For everyone here who has had to write about equalized assessed valuation. Now, I want to give a shout out to all my colleagues who are sprinkled in this room, past and present, from the Sun-Times. There you are, raise your hand. All the Sun-Times people who I have been with, over there, my buddies from Wakefield, okay? You are all part of our journey together. And I want to give another shout out to my personal heroes here, photographers and reporters who put themselves in harm's way, especially during this summer with Operation Midway Blitz. And since I came up in print, I want to give a shout out to all the people who worked on this print edition. I still consider it a miracle that it's put together and comes out every day. And of course, my new colleagues who are working and exploring and living in the world of digital journalism. Thank you all who are there. But now, let's hear it. And a lot of you fit this category. Let's hear it for the incredible beat reporters who are the backbone of so much of the reporting that we do in this city. The work of all the journalists in this room matters. Chicago is a great national example of how local journalism has been experimenting and reinventing itself with a number of outlets, many here, emerging in the past few years, focusing on our local communities and issues. We are competitors. We are collaborators. We have in common a shared devotion to local journalism. Our business is going through a tough time. We have new financial models. How we meet our audiences is just a question we look at every day. We celebrate the work of the Chicago journalism community tonight as our profession is under attack on many fronts from the Trump administration. That makes our work, our local mission, even more important. This is a critical time to be a journalist. Our challenge is to increase public trust in media amid misinformation and disinformation as we hold the powerful accountable and take seriously threats to our democracy. I receive this honor for my past work with gratitude, but we have to always be looking ahead. The folks in this room represent the strength, resilience, and you are the future of Chicago journalism. It's you. I'm proud to have been part and to be a part of the Chicago journalism community as we remember Peter Lisagor, the Chicago Daily News Washington bureau chief, who I looked upon with awe when I would see him in the National Press Building when I was covering Washington as a Medill student. Now, thank you to the Chicago Headline Club for this Lifetime Achievement Award. It's been a privilege. And in closing, can we lift our glasses and do a toast, everyone, to the First Amendment? Thank you.